So this is kind of like an extension episode from the episode that Shafiq and I just recorded where we talked about the Batman and Mushnik and all that. This is I'm just going to be talking about 5 lessons that I learned while performing theater. And honestly, I feel like the reason why I'm doing this is because I feel like it's important enough. These lessons that I learned, it's very important enough to share with people. I don't know who's listening, but to anyone who's listening, I feel like this is very, very useful. These are very useful lessons. I mean, to me, they really helped me kind of widen my perspective on life and in general. I mean, I might sound pretentious, but it's just, it's very, honestly, doing this performance, it taught me a lot. And so the 5 lessons that I learned, okay, so here we go. The first thing I learned is you got to do the work. You need to put in the time and effort to obtain the results that you want. And I feel like a lot of people are going to try to wing it. And this doesn't just apply to theater, but almost everything else in life. You have to give it everything you got. It's vital to really put in the effort and put in the time to work on something, to practice and really kind of hone your skills, because you see a lot of actors and you see a lot of writers, people who are kind of trying to master a certain profession or a talent. They got to keep working on it. And working on acting and singing for like 3 to 4 months, I realized that it's not something that acting is in particular is something you can't just wing. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to improvise this on the day." It doesn't really work like that. I realized that very early on that it's a skill that needs to be honed. It's a skill that really needs a practice, and you need to keep doing it in order to get better and better. Yeah, and you really do. And I feel like if you are thinking of doing theater, I'm gonna say that I would say try it. I would definitely recommend it. But if you're not gonna put in the effort, I wouldn't say try it. Like, you have to put in the time, you have to put in the effort, you have to be dedicated enough to go through all the pain and suffering. You have to find the joy in it. And that's very important. You got to do the work, but you really do have to do the work. I cannot emphasize that enough. And now that I realize that, looking back on on certain subjects in school, now I realize that I do have to put in the time and effort you know, in mastering the skills that I need for certain subjects. It was a very reflective lesson. This it was very it was, for me, learning this. It was a time of reflection for me. I feel like in some subjects I was kind of winging it, but now I realize you gotta do it. You have to put in the work. Because the results ultimately they mirror what you put in. They mirror the effort you put in, and so I feel like you really do need to do the work. I cannot emphasize that enough. I've seen people wing it, and yeah, that doesn't really turn out that well. And also do the work beforehand, because I honestly, man, that the performance day, I was like, man, I never knew the day would come that fast, and it really came very quickly. So I would say do the work beforehand, prepare and prepare 200%, 300% in order to show your 100%. It's very important. I cannot emphasize this enough. You have to prepare, and you got to know your stuff. And if you're gonna do theater, you know your stuff, and you go to rehearsal. It works. It works very, very well. Second lesson I learned: if you have the slightest bit of interest in something, do it. If there's a risk of failure involved, that's the more reason to do it. I swear to God, you have to ask yourself, am I going to regret this? Am I going to regret not doing this in the future? If the answer is yes, then you have to do it. I asked myself that question when I got the role of Mushnik. I asked myself, am I going to regret if I don't take this role, am I going to regret it? And the answer was yes. And so I decided, why not? Let's try something I haven't tried before. And also when I was very young, I liked performing. I used to dance. Not a lot of people know this, but I used to love dancing, especially to Michael Jackson songs. And it was for me doing this performance. It was like tapping into my inner child, and I especially enjoyed this doing this performance. So you have to. There is that risk of failure, and the reason why I say there needs to be a risk of failure involved is because if you don't have that pressure, if you don't have that potential risk, you're not going to try as hard. You know, it's like it's kind of that fire under your butt. It kind of pushes you to do better, and it really is that motivation. You're kind of constantly thinking, man, what if I mess up? What if I forget my lines? And that's the more reason why you want to practice more and more and really kind of get it all down, and so that you feel I don't know, safe or reassured, I suppose. And that, yeah. And also because of that risk, it's more fun. If you just play it safe, it's not fun anymore. I mean, look at there was an interview with Jared Leto, and Jared Leto, he's a great actor. I love him, but some of his performances are a bit. Case in point, the recent House of Gucci. I look, he's a great actor, but he goes big. Like he pushes it. He's very ambitious with how he portrays certain characters. And I know a lot of people didn't like his version of Joker in Suicide Squad, but I actually really liked it, personally. So I feel like you have to be able to take risks. Whether or not it pays off, that's up to the audience. But first, you need to be ambitious. You need to take risks. There has to be that risk of failure involved. And you have to go for it. You just got to go for it. It's the saying, go big or go home. You have to do it. Honestly, don't try to care about what other people are saying. If your guts say that you want to do this, you got to do it. And it's easy as that. You have to follow your instincts and kind of just go for it. Yeah. Third lesson I learned: trust in the process. There are going to be days of self-doubt and but remember that it's only temporary. Now, honestly, it's like you have to look how far you've come, and that'll kind of serve as motivation to keep going, because you've come this far and you can't just stop now. It's giving up in the middle. You can't do that. You got to keep going. You got to keep going till the very end. And you really do have to trust your abilities. Up until the performance day, I think I was so like, I kept questioning myself. Is my performance good enough? I kept wanting to kind of do it more and practice more and all that, but you really do have to kind of trust in the process. And there are days where you think, oh, how am I going to do this? There are days of like, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm doing a terrible job, but honestly, you're getting better every day. You just keep on learning, and you keep on fixing, and you just keep honing. It's like cleaning a diamond. It's you gotta clear out every dirty piece, and you gotta make it into a beautiful diamond. Yeah. So trust in the process. I mean, it is very hard and it is very tough. But I mean, you'll get there. You'll get there. No matter how long the process is, it really, when the end results it comes in, you're going to be satisfied. You're going to be happy with what you got. Yeah. Now, next, the fourth lesson I learned is you got to be confident, but also you got to be humble. Confidence, it comes from practice. It comes from hours of practice. And also, you have to remember you're a student of life. So don't let your ego get in the way of things. There's always something to learn from everyone and every situation. I'm very glad that I was honestly, I think I was one of the very few, I was probably one of the very few people in the production who has never ever, done a musical like this. And that lack of experience actually, it led me to, it led me to various learning opportunities from other actors because I just kept, I love acting with people who are better than me because you just watch them, you just learn, I think it's firsthand experiences. It's just, it really helps you. It's the best acting school you can ever go to. It's really, getting that experience firsthand. There's nothing like it. And it's really, really good. It's really helpful, and you strive to do better, and it's great. But also you have to learn that you have to think to yourself at this moment in your head, not to anyone else. You got to think, I'm the best, You got to be confident. You have to be confident in yourself and your abilities. It's honestly, confidence is key, because if you're shy and you're very reserved, yeah, that doesn't exactly help when you're acting. You have to be able to be vulnerable. You got to be vulnerable. You got to be open. You got to be. You can't just be in your head too much. You kind of have to get out of your head, and it taught me that. Theater taught me that. It was a very nice lesson. It was really interesting because during like the first few months of rehearsals, I was so kind of closed off, and it took me a while to gain confidence. But after practicing in my bedroom, and I go out into rehearsal and show people what I brought, it slowly I gained confidence in my singing and acting abilities. Though I wanted to, I wasn't satisfied enough. I had to keep practicing and all that. There was a moment where Mr. Hadley, he came up to me and he was like, "You're very good at singing." And I was very surprised because I never thought in my life I would get a compliment like that. But it taught me, like, if you put in the work, if you put in the time and effort, it really does pay off. And that's the point where I was like, oh, okay, I have to gain confidence. You have to trust yourself. And really it links back to the other lessons I learned before. You just be confident. That is key. And practice. It all links back to the previous lessons. It really, yes. Now, last but not least, the fifth lesson I learned is you gotta have fun. Genuinely love what you're doing. Now, the poem. Now, I want to thank Mr. Gagne, if he's listening. I want to thank him because he introduced the poem, The Prophet, to our English HL class. And I reread this poem after my performance on Saturday. I reread it, and it rings true, because The Prophet, if you haven't read it, read it. It's a great poem, but it all kind of stems from love. You have to kind of, everything that you do, the job, the profession you have, it has to stem from love. You genuinely have to love it, and that love will be communicated to others. And honestly, you cannot fake passion. You cannot fake interest. If you fake it, it eventually show one way or another. So you need to like what you're doing. It's very important that it comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of joy. One of the things that I got, one of the things that people have told me after the performance, a lot of teachers mentioned this, is that they said that you guys look like you guys are having so much fun on stage. And, as performers, we're not that conscious. We're not that conscious of, oh, we should have fun. It's not like that. It's just, we're trying to offer the best performances we can give individually and, have chemistry with one another. And it was that bond, I think, that collaborative team effort that really, I think, showed. It communicated very well to the audience, thankfully. Um, but I feel like every person involved was, they at least had interest in what they were doing. And honestly, you have to have that love. It's very, very important. And honestly, like, it's honestly it's probably the most important part of the lessons that I learned. It's very, very important. I think it all has to stem from love, and that's why I think The Prophet is a great poem. It talks about that very well. It's a great poem as well. Yeah. And so I'm very, very thankful that I get to participate in this production. I never thought I would do theater in my life. And honestly, it's an unforgettable experience. I loved it. I loved every second of working on this production. I was so happy to showcase it to the audience. Hope they enjoyed it. But honestly, it was something that we worked together as a team for a few months, and it was a joy. It was a huge blessing. I am very, very grateful. I'm very thankful to everyone involved for making such a great experience. I loved it. I truly loved it. And I want to do more. I miss the character. I miss playing Mushnik already. He was a fantastic character. I loved him. But yeah, honestly, these 5 lessons, I learned more stuff, but I feel like yeah, they're kind of linked to all of these lessons. These are the 5 big lessons I learned, and I don't know if anyone hears this. I hope it can help some people. I hope it really it helps inspire people. I don't know. I'm just, these are things I learned that I think are very applicable to other fields, not just theater, but really in anything in life. So, yeah. So that's that. I'll just end it here. Yeah. Okay.